Hello, Ray Phoenix here. Welcome to Let's Play LEGO Star Wars The Video Game, GBA Part 10. The game brings us right back to where we were, the same throne room where we murdered the evil droid king, General Grievous, and now all we have to do is escape from his throne room and escape from his palace, and we see his guards are still really pissed at us that we killed their king, so now they're going to be going at us with full force. They're going to send in whatever little forces they have, and look at this. We just fell back into the throne room, so we have to do this puzzle, if you can even call this a puzzle again, just so we can leave the throne room, get out of here. Yeah, that's a really poor, shoddy level design on their part. You can tell they were starting to get lazy at this point in development. They're probably thinking, what's the point? We made it this far in development. No kid's gonna really care about how these last levels play out. A lot of kids probably don't even make it this far in the game. I never made it this far in the game when I was a kid. So they probably figured that most kids probably wouldn't make it this far. So they thought, screw it. Let's just take that level from earlier, that poorly designed level we made earlier, just throw it in at the end. Yeah, kids aren't going to complain about this. Kids aren't going to notice this. They're going to love this. They're going to eat this all up. And kids love killing battle droids and going against them and stuff. This is all just the same stuff that we saw a few levels ago. Well, this is going to change in a bit. We're just going around collecting more money, more cash. You know, Obi-Wan probably loves money because he doesn't get paid anything as a Jedi. I don't think Jedi get paid to do any of the stuff they do, so they're very open to like collecting bribes and collecting money they see lying around, kind of like the cops in Springfield, where we have to go and where they're on the take. But what do you expect for the money they make? It's gonna go and kill off the battle droid. There will get some invincibility there. Still, like so they're still going full force. They're still using everything they can at us. If they had nuclear bombs, they'd probably use it right now, and to them, it would be worth using a nuke just so we could get rid of one Jedi. And that one Jedi that wanted to get rid of so badly is Obi-Wan Kenobi. I guess that's such a fair deal then, that they get rid of Obi-Wan Kenobi out of all the people they could possibly get rid of. So we're gonna go through and kill off those Jedis, collect their studs. I thought it was pretty cool that you collect studs. I mean, a lot of games would do that where you kill an enemy and stuff comes off of them. Kind of like in Jumping Flash, and you kill enemies and coins come out of them. I thought that was pretty impressive. And I remember seeing a trailer for the console version where it was like that. I think that was something they intended on putting in the console version of the game, but they scrapped it for some unknown reason. And then it later came back as an extra called Character Studs in LEGO Star Wars: The Complete Saga, where you get studs for killing enemies. Hence that name, Character Studs. But I thought that's pretty cool they put that in this game. In a lot of ways, this game was a little bit more advanced than the home console version, and in some ways it was a little bit ahead of the times. It actually is kind of ambitious to an extent, considering the fact it's a Game Boy Advance game, and they actually tried making like what looks like a 3D platform on the Game Boy Advance. They don't have to honor them for that they actually went and tried to do something this elaborate, especially so late in the Game Boy Advance's lifetime too. Just collect all I was down here really to collect is a Death Star plan, so I could run up here and see if there's anything more. This part I think is unique. I don't think we went to these specific parts last time, so this is pretty cool. I think R4 is mostly useless in this level too, just like Chewbacca in the last level. They're using those absurd cannon things again that could blow you up in like 1 or 2 hits, maybe not even, and there's still more droids. Where do you come from, little droid? There we go, we killed him. And now this is where the level's going to drastically change. We're now in the water cavern. I remember this from the movie. Order 66, go kill the Obi-Wan. That same evil monk is telling the red clones to go kill Obi-Wan. So now it's Obi-Wan versus the clone troopers. And we're in a very new venue, this underground cave. I actually thought this looked pretty impressive in the movie, seeing this underground cave, especially in the dark when you're watching it all. When you're watching in someone's basement on a large screen TV. Just navigating around here, these wide open, this overly large level, it doesn't really contain anything. It's so open, yet it's so empty and hollow at the same time. And of course, the clones and separatists are suddenly friends now, so they're going to be doing all they can to go and kill Obi-Wan, their one and only mutual enemy, which does make sense. I remember there was a quote at the beginning of an episode of Clone Wars that said, "The enemy of your enemy is your friend." And look what just happened there. We just had to jump off that thing. How was I supposed to know you're supposed to jump off that and fall all the way down to here? There weren't really any proper indicators of that at all. They just think kids at random would play around. They go, oh, look, I can jump down here, fall all the way down here. Because just like in a lot of these other levels too, and a lot of other isometric games in the Game Boy Advance, it's really hard a lot of the time to tell if it's something, what you can jump on and what you can't jump on, or where you can go and where you can't. And this level really demonstrates that perfectly. There's so many different inclined planes and raised platforms and whatnot. It makes you wonder, oh, can I jump on that? No, I can't. Or can I jump over there? Or was that something I can walk on? It's kind of hard to tell what you can walk on and what you can't walk on. All these clones shooting you constantly non-stop doesn't make it any better. They're still pathetically weak, though. I wonder why the Republic won this war, if their clones are so pathetically weak. And they're pretty dumb, too. You know, they're putties. Their minds are like Play-Doh. They could easily be manipulated into believing anything, just like people that go on TikTok all day, every day. A lot of them get their sort of information from TikTok. I'm pretty sure that's where the Separatists used to get their ideas from, so they could start this invasion of the galaxy that will break the Republic in two. They probably got their idea from someone on TikTok. Or maybe it was YouTube, I don't know. I mean, YouTube did barely exist around the time this game came out. This game came out around the time YouTube came out in April 2005, but I don't think anyone really knew that. Look at that. They make it seem like you're supposed to use your R4 droid, your useless red R2-D2. It's really just called R4, rebranded into R4. But no, you can't jump by over there. Instead, you have to jump over here as Obi-Wan and use this force thing and move that thing there like that. And there we go. Now he undid the force field there so we could walk where that arrow is. And believe it or not, that's the end of the level up there. Yeah, that's right over there. The only challenging part is figuring out how we're supposed to go over there. How are we supposed to walk all the way over there? There's no map, there's no guides or nothing. You just have to guess on your own terms. While murdering a bunch of clones and battle droids that are still out to get you, still have to kill you. So either kill or be killed in these caverns. I have to admit, these caverns do look pretty cool for a Game Boy Advance game. It's actually, like I keep saying, this isn't that bad of a game for the Game Boy Advance. It's really impressive that a small handheld device could do all of this. It's called Game Boy Advance because it is the most advanced Game Boy that could ever exist. It was far more advanced than the Game Boy and Game Boy Color. I remember there was a Lego Island 2 for Game Boy Color. There's even a Lego Racers for Game Boy Color, I think. And there was even Lego Stunt Rally, I think, for Game Boy Color. I remember seeing a review of that game years ago. I remember the reviewer said that playing with real Lego in real life is a lot more fun than playing Lego Stunt Rally on the Game Boy Color. I remember seeing a review for the PC version of that game, and then I remembered finding out that you could actually beat the game just simply by pressing up on the up arrow key on your keyboard. If only this game were like that, if you just beat the game just simply by pressing up and doing nothing. So that's the end of the level already, a pretty short level overall. They just it's like a filler level. They just had to put something in to gap Obi-Wan's story from where he was killing Grievous to now he has to deal with Order 66. And then on the next level in the game's the final boss, where you're gonna lock him. Hey, it finally gave us Obi-Wan. I used to get the idea when I was playing this game as a kid that the people who made this game must have something against using Obi-Wan. We barely used him in Phantom Menace at all. We don't really use him that much in Attack of the Clones, except for that one level, so 2 or 3 levels you don't really get to play as him. And Revenge of the Sith didn't really give us any opportunities to play as him, except for going to Utapau and his Order 66 mission. That's about it. And this last level too, that's about it. And episode 3 is a lot longer than the other episodes in this game. So I can tell that the people who made this game must not have liked Obi-Wan, or they were really reluctant to use him, and they didn't want us to have him as an unlocked character. So that's why they gave us Obi-Wan right at the very end of the game. I remember being pissed by that as a kid. He's my favorite character in the game, and yet I couldn't play as him in free play mode because I never made it this far into the game as a kid. It's like you have to be like a Jedi Master just to unlock a Padawan version of Obi-Wan. There's only one Obi-Wan in this game. And I was wondering why LEGO Star Wars 2 and the Game Boy Advance is like 2. There was a LEGO Star Wars 2 for Game Boy Advance. I never had it for the longest time. I eventually did get a copy of it, but for the longest time I never had the game. I used to wonder what it was like. So I actually did get the PC version of LEGO Star Wars 2 the following Christmas 2006, about a year after I got this game for the Game Boy Advance. I used to just wonder out of curiosity, what is the Game Boy Advance version of LEGO Star Wars 2 like? And then I found out saw what it was like. I was actually kind of impressed. It's just like the home console version, but not as good. It's not like a completely different game like what this was. Another thing I was impressed about too was that they actually used a different set of sprites for Obi-Wan. They actually made him look like Alec Guinness, and imagine they still used the sprites from this game of the young Padawan Obi-Wan and made him live on Tatooine and had him be the one that trains Luke Skywalker and goes and meets Han Solo and goes on the Millennium Falcon, goes through the Death Star and shuts off the tractor beam, and then he has to go fight Darth Vader, all as a Padawan. That could almost be a meme. He did all this brave, heroic, insane stuff, and he lived for so much, and despite all that, he's still just a Padawan. Kinda like Harry Kim from Star Trek Voyager. He went through so much hell and back, and yet he's still just a measly little ensign. He never got promoted. All his friends got promoted, but him. Wonder why they hate him so much. Wonder if maybe there's some reason why they wanted to keep him on as an ensign. never wanting to get promoted to anything more than just a measly little ensign. That's kind of what Obi-Wan is like in this game. He never gets promoted. He killed Darth Maul, he killed General Grievous, and he's still just a Padawan. But then again, we don't really use him as much. We use Anakin a lot more. And Anakin Skywalker, if you haven't figured it out by now, is the final boss of the game, and he doesn't give you a choice of who to play as, which I'm okay with. I don't really like Anakin Skywalker that much anyways, so I don't really care if he dies or not. I despise Anakin. Even when I was a kid liking these movies, I never really liked Anakin that much. I'm glad he got his just desserts, which is what's just about to happen right here. The final boss time. And how do you beat him? It's simple. You use the Force. That's how he killed all the other bosses. It's playing Duel of the Fates right now, which isn't far off from what it did in the movie, but I think it's kind of lazy too. I mean, I thought it was cool when I was a kid, but now I see it's kind of lazy. They just use Duel of the Fates for every boss fight in this game. It's the same music for every single boss. I remember the Sonic the Hedgehog games are like that too, where the final boss would always have the same theme, or the boss would, there'd be like a boss theme, so you know when the boss is coming up, or stuff so you'd hear, so you know the music changes, or there'd be a specific theme for the boss. In this game, it's always this Duel of the Fates. It's so lazy that they just use Duel of the Fates for everything. They're using Duel of the Fates here as well too. They used it for fighting General Grievous, Count Dooku both times, and Darth Maul, and now this. I actually thought it was pretty cool. I remember I used this specific version, a YouTube video I did years ago of the console version of this game, because it wasn't copyrighted, or wasn't subject to copyright. It's just a horribly compressed version of the song for the Game Boy Advance. I'm not sure if YouTube's algorithms would detect it or not. I don't think they would. They're running after, you don't even know how many takes this took. This took like 50 takes for me to get this far to finally defeat Anakin Skywalker. Remember earlier I talked about how powerful Anakin's Force power is, where he froze his lightsaber using the Force saber throw? I remember mentioning it's a double-sided sword, and this is what I meant by double-sided sword. It could be used against you too, but thankfully I managed to catch him here. Yeah, geez, his AI slipped right here. His AI had a major brain fart right here, so he jumped into the lava and got himself burned, only for me to kill him. Right there, so he could get built into Darth Vader. It took me 50 tries, and that's how it finally turned out. Yeah, they made Anakin really hard. I don't know, maybe this game has somewhat of those, like, adaptive difficulty things, but once you've failed the mission so many times, it just says, let's just make it easier for you. I know a lot of games from this era did that. Maybe that's what happened, I don't know. There, we unlocked Darth Vader. And for some unknown reason, we unlocked Jango Fett. You might be scratching your head thinking, Jango Fett? Who is that? I don't remember seeing Jango Fett anywhere in this game. Well, you didn't, because he doesn't exist in this game, except for the very end right there where you actually unlock him. This is going to show us the ending credits of the game now. All the people who worked on this game, all the people had to sacrifice their lives, all their precious time and money and effort, and just so they can make this game that almost no one played. Which is actually quite a shame, really. I think more people should have played this version. There could have been a whole community based around this game, a whole community based around all these people working on stuff and making stuff and doing all this stuff. And they could have made a whole community around this, like a whole around this game. They could make mods. I can imagine there being mods or ROM hacks for this game. And for some reason, it seems to use the love theme all the time for when someone dies. The love theme is never used when someone dies. Just playing a bunch of random songs from the game during the end credits. And good God, there's so many credits. How many people worked on this game? This is just like a simple, petty 2-bit game on the Game Boy Advance, and yet there's so many people that were involved in the production of this game. I think this might even be more than what was in The Simpsons Hit and Run end credits. Heck, Twisted Metal 3 was like a game that was far more elaborate than this. It was in 3D and had so much more, and yet that game had a small team of people, and they made that whole game in like 8 months or so. Yeah, 8 months. I wonder how long it took them to make this. 8 minutes? 8 hours? I don't know how long it would take to make this thing, but it probably didn't take an awful lot of time. That's pretty much the end of the credits now, and this is pretty much a LEGO Star Wars video game is for the Game Boy Advance. It's a nice game to play every now and then. It's fun in its own unique way, in its own right. It's a great classic game that I like to play every now and then. This is Ray Phoenix, signing out.